Hello, welcome to Nakhti by J.N.S. And today we are going to talk about a very important concept. And this video is going to be titled The Fall and the Rise of the Black Race Part 1, the Queen Mothership Concept. So we're going to discuss the fall of the Black Race Part 1, the Queen Mothership Concept. And we are starting at the point before colonialism and going to detail the structure of African society, because we want to know what was going on before we came in contact with foreigners, what worked and what didn't work, and what happened after contact with the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, the Arabs, etc., etc., etc. So why are we going so far back, damn near 1500 years back in history? Because we want to know what actions led up to the predicament that we are in now. So we need to trace our history, not the history that is being told to us in the mainstream textbooks, but we want to know as far back as we can get what the hell happened, so that we can prevent it, so we can learn from it, and so that we can pivot our consciousness to whether we need to look at something that happened in the past and re-implement it or avoid it. So this is going to be a series, and again, we really need to understand what got us into such a subjugated situation in the last 1,000 years, and what can we do to recapture African pedagogy and our true nature and structure, so that we can avoid ever being in this situation again. So we're facing the truth of what happened, because I actually did a lot of research on this stuff, and the information is out there. Anything that's going to be in this video is going to be documented and accurate, but a lot of things are hidden for various reasons. We want to know what worked and what didn't work, so that we can break self-imposed limitations, because many of us, we tell the one-sided story of how Africa got colonized and how its people got scattered all over the world, riches stolen, and resources plundered. And we only tell that one side because we will have to admit the ways of our own naivete, our own lack of strategy, the low self-esteem, and lack of self-preservation skills. So by absolving ourselves of what truly happened back then and telling the story of how these white men came on the ships with guns and they just completely just ravaged, as if they had no collaborators, no contributors, no people that was willing to undermine and sell other Africans out, tribalism, all of these things that played a role in our very situation. And the story that we tell is only partially true, because after a while, those who were helping those who were collaborating and thinking that they were going to give a piece of small land to the Portuguese, aka Afonso II, they thought they were going to just, they help us get rid of our tribal enemy, so yeah, we're going to give them a small piece of land. Next thing you know, they was in slavery too. They got sold off and conquered too. So we are not trying to, necessarily dwell in the peptide addiction of our trauma that we went through, more so to just get an understanding of what happened, to learn our lessons, to embrace what was, because we gave up a lot of things for what we thought was riches, and we need to know the truth. And we can no longer deny the role that we play, because our very lives depends on knowing the truth, so that we can heal and learn the various lessons that the ancestors want us to learn, and to free our mind. And by understanding the occultic side to what happened to the black race, and how the Bavioti spirit led to the complete downfall, and how our ancestors participation in that actually put a spiritual stronghold on our entire race, or what some of us will say a curse. but it's not like, like how you're thinking. And it will help us, knowing this truth will help us to reverse those spiritual strongholds, aka curse, and truly learn from our mistakes. And in the past, we refused to learn. We did not accept what was done wrong, and for that we are still continuing to see this suffering. It's pretty unnecessary. Like, the ancestors looking like, when is these niggas gonna wake up? When? How, Sway? How? And it's 2020, and it's time to come into alignment with the truth, to become solution oriented, and to embrace our nature and the universal laws. So part 1 is going to solely deal with the Queen Mothership concept, which was the societal structure before it was overthrown. So we will talk about how and why it was overthrown, exactly what happened and after it happened, and what the ancestors will have us do in 2020. So I want you, in your mind's eye, to think of a time in Africa before any contact with outsiders. I want you to think as yourself, as your ancestors right now. Think of that time when everything was intact. It's gold, it's uranium, cadmium, platinum, cobalt, diamond, rubies, etc., etc. Oil still in the damn ground. Think of that time right now. Go deep, deep, deep within your cell memory consciousness to be able to absorb this information I'm about to tell you. And as I'm teaching you, put yourself in that moment, okay? So, let's begin. So, the Queen Mothership consists of societies of 3 types. First, societies in which women make a contribution to subsistence. Second, societies in which descent is traced through women. And third, ancient women rulers and oracles. So the pre-colonial Queen Mothership concept can be found in several African societies. And I want your forgiveness because I know I'm going to pronounce these names wrong. I'm a good old-fashioned foundational American Black. Been here for 400 years, so I'm going to butcher these names, and I want your forgiveness, okay? So here I'm going to start. So here are some of the tribes slash areas of where the Queen Mothership concept was taking place, because again, remember, there was no borders back during this time. So I'm going to be switching back and forth for what was the name of the tribe and its modern day nation. Okay, so we have the Ashanti tribe of the Man people in Ghana. We have also the Akan people, which is also in Ghana, and Benin, which is modern day Nigeria. The Queen Mothership concept existed there. In Egypt, of course, Nubia, which is now Sudan, the village of Umeke Abgaja, which is in Nigeria, the Minda, which is Cameroon now, the Imazangan, which is Northern Sahara, and all of its subgroups, which is Sahara, Safi, Nadut, I'm so sorry, I'm pronouncing that wrong, Palar, Lala, Noon, and Neominka, which is in Senegal and Gambia. And lastly, but not least, we have the Zamaro people from Tanzania and the Bututsi. Okay, so the Queen Mothership concept roles are found among these people. So now let's talk about what is the Queen Mother concept. Okay, and I want to get this out the way right now. Queen Motherships does not denote or mean or synonymous with matriarchy. It just simply means that hierarchy, classes, and domination of one gender by the other does not exist. Because I don't want you ivory tower Let me just refrain from going on a tangent. I don't need the feminist scholars jumping out the window attacking my epistemology, saying that they weren't no matriarchal societies in Africa, when I'm not even arguing that point, when that was the societies that was the closest to it. I don't need the ivory tower nonsense. All I'm saying is that the queen mothership means that there is a complex mosaic, multi-level governance with a matrix of ethics to revere the divine feminine as well as the masculine. So this does not mean matriarchy. It just means a dual balance, dual political systems of the woman running the kingdom and queendom with male counterparts. So there were kings during this time, obviously, but they had to answer to the queen mothers for final decisions. The queen mothers can also be known as oracles, or they just may have had the role of high priestesses. Now, these queen mothers often had the final say. There were often an odd number of them throughout many empires in Africa, and the queen mothership was a dual sex political system. So every office in the political hierarchy had female and male counterparts. So we're not talking about the women working and the men laying in the shade. We ain't talking about, women doing everything and the niggas laying in the shade taking pictures with a glass of lemonade. That wasn't what this is about. We're talking about pragmatism, mutual respect, and balance between the genders. So why was there a queen mothership concept? And this is related to the geographical zones. And let's get deep here. In the South, the queen mothership originated in the agricultural regions of Africa, where it was hot, because women were in charge of gathering the food and they were the keepers of the food. So a lot of things depended on them being able to grow our food, water it at a certain time, and keep track of the time, first and last frost, and when it was going to rain and all of that. So women were involved in severely in the agricultural aspects, where the men were the hunters. And the power of the woman was based on their economic contribution to the social system in the form of agriculture. As you know, Africa is very tropic, extremely hot. So food is plenty. Contrary to what they want you to think, food has always been plenty. It's plenty now, but you're getting ripped off, but that's the video for another time. But food was always plenty. So the woman was always gathering these seeds and farming, and the men were always the hunters because of their influx of muscle mass. They obviously have more muscle mass on their body than a woman, and that's not to try to get anyone upset. It's just facts. Before the day, now you could just take testosterone and get your muscle mass up, but 1,500 years ago, the man through brute force was the stronger being. So due to pragmatism, it was just like where they were going to be the ones to go and get wood for a shelter, build certain things, as well as kill the animal and set up these sort of quasi military systems. So in the queen mothership system, the mother was considered to be sacred, and she had unlimited authority. The power of motherhood was symbolized in many of the African traditional religions, and it was also symbolized in African spiritual or even magical powers. So that's why when a woman gave birth, the men could be nowhere around. They would be scared of the blood of that childbirth because of its belief in its sacred intuitive nature and spiritual phenomenon of the blood. Also, the bleeding monthly. That's why the men had to stay away from the women 7 days in certain areas, because they did not want to come in contact with that sort of essence. And it's important to understand this information because patrilineality became a part of African culture through the introduction from Indo-Europeans and Arabs in the 10th century, through the introduction of Islam. Islam is not native to Africa, neither is Christianity, as we know. There is a certain version of Christianity that is, as far as the original Kabbalah information and the Bible that's very similar. The original Aramaic Bible that's similar to the Bantu language. There is some connection there, but it is not. That wasn't throughout all of Africa, as we know. So now let's talk about the examples of the Queen Mothership. So as we know, Ghana celebrated its 100th anniversary of the Battle of the Ashanti people against British occupation in 2000. And this battle was led by Asantewa, the Queen Mother of Ijisu. In March of 1900, Asantewa inspired Ashanti chiefs to take up arms against the British, who had arrested Prempeh I, and he was the Asante Hene king, again, please forgive my pronunciations, in 1896, and they had deported him to the Seychelles Island off of the northern tip of Madagascar. So the king, he was in exile for 4 years with 30 of his most important paramount chiefs and elders, as well as his family. And guess what? Check this out. The Ashanti chiefs in Ghana were afraid to wage war against the British. So the black men, they was afraid to go to war. However, Queen Asantewa gave an impassioned speech and subsequently led an army of about 4,000 men to fight against the colonizer British. So, I'm going to read you the speech and get this in your subconscious mind. Listening to the voices. How can a proud and brave people like the Ashanti sit back and watch while the white man took away their king and chiefs and humiliated them with a demand for the golden stool? The golden stool only means money to the white man. They have searched and dug everywhere for it. I shall not pay 1 predwan, which means pound, to the governor. If you, the chiefs of Ashanti, are going to behave like cowards and not fight, you should exchange your loin clothes for my undergarments. So that was the Queen Mother telling the black male chiefs that they ass got to fight. Okay? And these men were scared, and you're going to see throughout different empires where the men got so scared, and when the oracles and the Queen Mothers was telling them to fight, they got her ass up out the paint. And yes, they did surrender and sell their people off. I could show you examples. This example wasn't like that, but there are other examples where the men were so afraid, and when the Queen Mother kept saying, keep going, they said, bitch, we gonna surrender. And this is why when they overthrow and overruled the saying of the Queen Mother / oracles, this was one of the main contributed factors to the downfall of our race. Because not only were they not following what she was saying, they were making deals behind her back, killing the oracles and the Queen Mother so that they can make deals with these Portuguese and these Dutch and these British to sell their own women into sex trafficking, as well as their rival tribes, not knowing that them same men was going to come back and get their ass and put them in slavery and colonize their lands. So let's go to other examples. And her name is Nazinga of Ndongo and Mutaba. Queen Nazinga was a 17th century queen of the Ndongo and Mantaba kingdoms of the Mobundo people in what is now known as Angola today. Queen Nazinga had to kill her own brother and father because they wanted to make these deals with the Portuguese. And Nazinga fought for the freedom and stature of her kingdoms against the Portuguese up until she was 62 years old. And these Portuguese were concentrating their efforts towards Southwest Africa in attempts to control the slave trade. And on all her deathbed, damn near, she was on the battlefield at 62 years old with one eye. And the men closest to her was ready to make deals to sell other tribes into slavery and to trade land for guns. And she had to kill her own brother and father because they were going to sell her out. So once again, see that link? There's another example of a queen mothership where the men was willing to leave that gate open and leave for the foreigners to come, and the women, because the queen mothership is a really deep spiritual concept and has to do with our connection to the universe, Mother Nature herself, and our spiritual systems. So once this got off balance and our men was willing to help these foreigners capture other tribes, take hold of their land, sell off their own women and children, or just be afraid to fight, this is where the imbalance happened. And this is the truth that we need to know, or else, because it's still going on today. I could show you plenty of examples of the same shit going on in 2020, from the 1900s to the 1960s to the 2000s to the 2000, all of that. So it's still going on. The curse is still replaying itself. So here are some more examples. I know I talked earlier about the Akan tradition, but we're going to get a little more specific. So in the Akan tradition, queen mothers rule alongside the chief or the king in their area. Queen mothers are considered the spiritual heads of their community and the keepers of genealogical knowledge. They have veto power of the king or chief and may appoint their own ministers. Queen mothers also select candidates for the next chief if the chief's stool is vacant. Queen mothers in Akan presided over courts, which they hear cases about disputes brought to the court by women and men in their courtrooms, and queen mothers and their court officials wielded power over the dispute, and so they made the final judgment. And when necessary, queen mothers can assume full control of central authority. In some instances, they have acted as war leaders. So that is the Akan tradition. So now we move on to the Beni tradition. The kingdom of Benin did not have queen mothers until after the end of the 15th century, when there was a conflict for the throne. And during that conflict, the women gained power, and the first of their number, Queen Idia, she became a queen mother. So queen mothers in the Benin tradition are literal mothers of the kings. And the classical queen mothers of Benin, each known as Ioba, had a great deal of power and were venerated as the protectors of the kings. So now let's talk about the Burundian tradition, which is from the African country Burundi. In the ancient kingdom of Burundi, a queen mother was known as a Mugabekazi. This title holder served as a powerful figure during the reign of either her son or, as in the case of Queen Virikmutima, her stepson. So now let's talk about the infamous Dahomean tradition. Amongst the Fan people of the Dahomey, the Kobojito serves as the queen mother. Traditionally, this title holder heard religious appeals, served as the counsel to the king or a hosi of Dahomey, and pleaded before him in capital cases. Today, she still holds a position of influence within the kingdom's great council, and also oversees both a significant portion of Dahomey's day-to-day administration and the famous Dahomey Amazon's military unit. She shares this latter function with Queen Hangbi of the royal family. So now let's talk about the Congolese tradition, and this is the Congolese that's spelled with the K, not the modern day Congo that's spelled with the C. So in the old kingdom of Congo, a queen mother was known as a Mwene Nazimba Mapungu. She was usually the reigning king's paternal aunt and was expected to lead the 4 women that were ex officio members of the Mbanda, the kingdom's crown council. So let's talk about the Krobo tradition. Among the Krobo, there is the paramount queen mother and several lesser queen mothers ruling under her. Krobo queen mothers have less power than the queen mothers of the Akan tradition do. It is theorized that the tradition of the queen mother may have been adopted from the Akan people of Ghana in Krobo. So the Krobo select queen mothers through a secret election by the elders, a very secret society situation going on here. And after her selection, she is notified of her new role by having the white clay smeared on her arm, which is a ritual installation that is performed where she is taught, advised, and given a new name, and then she can rule alongside with the chief. So Krobo queen mothers are seen as the mothers of their community. And while there is an emphasis on women affairs for the queen mother, she helps both men and women. So that is the Krobo tradition. So now let's talk about the Kushite tradition. In the kingdom of Kush, this is also Kandaki, an ancient state that was located in what is today the Sudan, a queen mother was known as a Kandaki. She ruled alongside her son, the king, or Kor of Kush, and joined him in serving a variety of priestly functions in the kingdom. Holders of the title were so famous that they were mentioned in both the Alexander Romance and the New Testament of the Bible. So let's talk about the Peber tradition. Peber queen mothers are expected to become celibate. Lord of mercy. The Peber queen mother's role is ceremonial. It is occultic, and her true power lies in her ability to form an opposition against the king. So now let's talk about the Surrey Tradition. This is also Linger, and the Surrey is S-E-R-E-R, because I know I'm pronouncing these things wrong, so if you want to go look it up, I'm going to spell some of these traditions for you. So in the Seher kingdom of Senegal, which is now Senegal in Gambia, a queen mother was referred to as a Linger. She was typically the mother or sister of the reigning king or Laman, and ruled her own territory in his kingdom. As with the Akans, dynastic succession was vested in her progeny instead of Laman's. So the Swazi tradition, let's talk about them. Amongst the Swazi people of southern Africa, the mother is known as the Nlovokati. Joining her son the king, or Ingwenyama of Eswatini, she rules the kingdom of Eswatini, and Eswatini, and what is essentially a diarchy. Although most of the day-to-day functions of administrations are performed by the Ingwenyama, the Nlovokati is spiritually prominent due to her officiating during the annual Reed dance rite. So now let's talk about the Tiswana tradition, which is T-S-W-A-N-A. Amongst the Tiswana people, the queen mother is referred to as the Mohumagadi Mam Kagosi. She serves as the advisor to her son, the chief, and is generally held in high esteem by the members of the tribe that she rules. So let's talk about the Yoruba tradition. Women of the varying ages and ancestries are installed as the titled mother of the king of the Yoruba. They also have a variety of different functions. The Irili Kuti of Lagos, for example, is ranked third in the order of precedence. She serves as a regent when the stool of the king or Oba of Lagos is vacant. A part of the coronation ceremonies for a new Oba, she also publicly blesses the candidate prior to his installation. For these reasons, she is regarded as the queen mother of the realm, Elsewhere in Igba land, the Moshadi is another example. A titled courtier in the service of the king, or Alaki of Igba land, she is the functionary charged with the responsibility of crowning him. Following this, she also conducts the installations of all the subordinate chiefs. Due to this, she too claims Queen Mother as part of her ceremonial style. In addition to these and other women in Yoruba land that hold the title Iya Oba, there is also a class of women that are known as Oba Obirin, or King of the Women, and that is OBA space OBIRIN. Usually holders of the principal title Iyalodi. These figures oversee women's affairs in the various kingdoms and represent their gender in the Privy Council of the Kings. And in Egypt, there were also queen mothers. They weren't necessarily called queen mothers. They were high priestesses that protected the pharaoh and helped assist in making final decisions for the kingdom of Egypt. And also the pharaoh had to drink the menstrual blood of these queen mothers every month to vitalize their prana, or their life force energy, because it was believed that they would have heightened intuition and psychic abilities and be able to connect with the Egyptian gods better if they consumed the menstrual blood of the queen mothers. Not just random women, but actual enlightened women. So here are some more examples. In pre-colonial Igbo society in particular, a man could not achieve any standing without a woman in the queen mothership. That does not mean that a man cannot be a king, or that a man did not have noble status. It just means that there had to be the queen motherships and the oracles through her spiritual alignment and true balance within her soul blueprint, being able to help society run in a cohesive manner. So the idea that a female could yield and wield political power and authority equal to or surpassing that of male officials was unacceptable to the European colonialists when they came in contact with the Igbo society. And here are some other concepts of the queen mothership in this traditional society. A woman's anger was feared and avoided. Though they too could have their own troubles, women as a whole were often united as one. Also, that's another thing. The queen mothership, they used to be much more united than what you see today. And men knew that to take on one Igbo woman was to take on the Igbo women as a whole. And they were anxious to avoid this. This is not to say that the men were passive or timid. They just knew the traditional saying, happy wife, happy life. So they played their role and did what they needed to do, and they weren't going to be trying to rouse up get the women all upset and shit. Especially when they was doing a lot of the agricultural work anyways, and fetching the water. As we know, that's why they had those big old buckets on their head to this day. The women also were in charge of getting the water because they were watering the plants. Because this is in southeastern Nigeria. So why did the black man want to avoid a woman's anger during this time? He did this so that he didn't get his ass beat with a stick by all the women. So back then there was like this systematized punishment, that would happen if a man got caught cheating, lying, stealing, or just doing some dumb shit. So all of that catcalling and harassment that niggas be doing today, it wouldn't go down like that in the queen mothership. It can't go down like that in the queen mothership. And you know what? I long for those days. All of this disrespect that you see in 2020, these women will band together and beat your ass with a stick. Have you ever read this information? I want to say it's an article and not a book, but it's called Sex in Mangaya. And basically, the women in Mangaya, Man, when these men would call themselves doing some stupid shit, like just doing some fuck shit, these women band together with their sticks or a whip. Sometimes it's a whip, and they go and beat that ass. And that's the problem with the black woman today. She too soft on these niggas. She starts thinking, falling into the role of what other societies are doing, and she's not taking her role as the queen mother of the universe, and not taking her role to check these men who are disrespecting her. Because it's a lot of y'all that need to be beat with a stick and whipped by all of the women in the neighborhood. They ain't gonna kill you. You know, you're gonna survive and whatnot. You're gonna have a whip lash or whip mark on your ass or your back. But all of the women, we need to implement this system again, the queen mothership system, to clean up, especially that fatherlessness. Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one. I'm telling you, I got my stick ready. Soon as the queen mothership get reinstated, soon as it get reinstated, because it will be, and I hope it's in my lifetime. Soon as that shit get reinstated, and these men that be abandoning their children, leaving their children out of wedlock and all this nonsense, oh, we coming for that ass. Like having a seed, imparting a part of your consciousness into another being, and then, oh, I'm abandon it. Them days are gone. They're going to be going very soon, because once the queen mothership gets reinstated, which it is on its way, because we're in the age of Aquarius now, and we're in the age where the planets are aligning different. We're not in the Pisces emotional age. We're in the information age of logic, science, and technology, and a return to feminine energy, very powerful feminine energy. Not all pink, women wear pink and women wear nails, not that kind of feminine energy. That's a part of it, but we talking about some dark goddess energy. The woman, the feminine energy, is a creative energy, and it's a destructive energy. And I'll never forget, I had a friend say, well, when you say that, what's so destructive about it? As we know, the feminine energy is represented by nature and planet Earth. And nature can be extremely destructive, right? When you see a volcano pouring out lava, fire, hot fire, on a whole damn town, and wiping the whole damn town out and its people, is that not destructive? And is that not nature? Is that not Mother Nature? And do you think she give a damn that it was people down there? Because nature is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. When a big ass hurricane, why do you think they be naming them hurricanes after the women? When them Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Sandy and all this stuff come knocking through, do you think that she gave a damn about people? No, it was about some sort of balance needed to be made, Earth acting up, platonic plates doing what it's going to do, and that's it. Whether it's an earthquake, whatever. So when I explain how the feminine energy is both a destruction and a creative force, think of it in those terms of how nature is what it is, and you gotta have your polarity. And that's how the universe works. It's one of the laws of the universe, is the law of polarity. And that sort of feminine energy is coming back in all of its polarity. So don't think you just gonna have a girl in 6-inch heels with a G-string up her ass and that's feminine energy. No, you about to get it all. The queen mothership in all of its glory. Oracles, high priestess, black. Not even gonna get into all of that. Look, it's all coming back in the age of Aquarius. And it's a very powerful time for the black woman and black man and queen mothership. It can go either way though. Don't think you off the hook. Work have to be done. Spiritual work has to be done. Integration has to be done. And when I talk about integration, I'm talking about the mind concept. Subconscious mind integrated with the conscious mind. I'm not talking about no other weird shit y'all thinking. And all of this stuff needs to be in balance in order for it to be going in your favor. And if you refuse to get in balance, then don't say I didn't warn you. because individuals can get with the program and get with nature and the universal laws, and they will be fine and they can save themselves. But as far as a community, right now you're in limbo and you have a choice whether you're going to ascend your consciousness and sublimate to your true nature and to your pedagogy that's natural to you, or you can perish with the Babylonian and perish with an unrighteous system. So it's up to you. You got to make that decision. True oracles and queen mothers, we gonna be good regardless. We just trying to help y'all out, you know. So again, I done went on a tangent, but man, oh man, I got my stick ready. I'm just letting y'all know that now, and I'm gonna get a whip, and I'm gonna be whipping ass for all that shit y'all been doing. It's not happening under the Queen Mothership, and I'm letting you know that now. It's going to be order, and you're going to be happy. Everyone's going to be happy. Egalitarian. Everyone, plenty of food, chilling, relaxing, doing their job, doing their part in the role to make society work. But all of that disrespect and nonsense that y'all pulling, ass whooping time. So, back to the pre-colonial Igbo society. So the woman could rough up a man and even destroy his prized possession, set his whole shit on fire if he was going to do some very disrespectful things during this society. And the other men will hardly ever come to the rescue or the defense of one of their own, because they believe that it was a man's own business that he brought the wrath of the women on himself. And the Igbo cultural traditions placed a premium on female assertiveness and collectively fostered women's independence, because power was not defined as socially deviant. Okay, and the Igbo men were accustomed to women being in positions of power and influence, and had developed respect for their administrative skill. And the scholars that I've got this information from were obviously Igbo women, and they did some follow-up interviews, recently with women in the village, and we're going around, asking women, the elders in particular, did they ever remember of this time, because they were able to get this information collated or curated rather from word of mouth, books, all types of things they were doing to collect this information and bring it to the forefront. And African literature and history. And the women, unfortunately, when they were interviewed, a lot of the younger women were like, it's so different now. It's like, we don't know what none of that was about. And it was some elders that said they do remember hearing of, like, say, they grandma, because the elders, they already grandmas now, but then they still remember their mother, and they still remember their mother's mother, and they're hearing these stories, and they would talk about it ain't like what it was back then. So I'm gonna share this information with you. And another thing, so prior to the colonial contact with this Igbo society in Nigeria, the British were completely shocked when they came into contact with them, because they were accustomed to a rigid system of obviously patrilineity. So when they arrived, they thought that obviously the society was extremely inappropriate, and they were able to brainwash the people into thinking that their own society was inappropriate, and the Queen Mothership concept was inappropriate. The Greeks did it to the Egyptians as well. I mean, literally all throughout Africa. Like, when as soon as they started to come into contact with these foreigners, it was just like a culture shock on both sides. And they had male leaders and chiefs, and they were important in the Igbo society, but they were not patrilineal people. So it was different. And again, remember I was telling you about the geographical reasons for why the societies developed differently between the West and Africa. And in Europe, the societies were very nomadic, and it was cold. They had to stay in cave. So the men were very dominant in terms of having to go out in the cave during the cold to get the things that they could find, food. It wasn't tropical, so there were no planting. There was a lot of meat in the diet, like the paleo. When they talk about the paleo diet, there's a reason for the paleo. And when you look at the list, and you'd be like, as a black person trying to follow the paleo diet, don't feel like we shouldn't be eating all this meat, because the paleo diet is a European diet, where when they would go out during the out of the caves in Europe, and they would go in and get their hunting and go back in. So they did a lot of meat eating, and medium rare, whatever they could find, cook it as much as they can and eat it. But those women were so heavily dependent on the men because of the lack of because of the weather differences. So it developed a certain way in two different regions of the world. And when the two regions decided to come together, there was this shock. And then when one group got dominated, they got shamed for their system of the Queen Mothership, and shamed very deeply, and brainwashed into thinking that the men needed to do what they saw in other societies doing. So that is very important. I done gave you some examples. I don't want to be sitting here for a long time going on and on about these examples. That was just to give you an idea of what was going on, and some of the things that you saw happening. So part 2 is going to be the overthrow of the Queen Mothership. So we're going to discuss that in part 2. And again, we're discussing this whole system that was in place that got overthrown, so that we can know exactly what went wrong and what worked and what didn't work. Because the overthrow of the Queen Mother part 2 is going to be breaking down exactly what the hell was going wrong, and the corroboration of black men as well as black women. It's going to be so nuanced in part 2, because it was the black women consorting with black male chiefs that were on a high level to overthrow other black women. But these black men were using them as sort of pawns, because they in turn were collaborating with Western powers to sell their own people. Not even so much sell their own people, but that was one part of it. But for wealth and trades and deals and pacts and all types of information. Just like, for instance, Alfonso II, he told the Portuguese that if he gave their army weapons and guns to take out a rival tribe, that he would give them some land in Africa right next to them. And not only, and this was in Congo, it's Kongo, and he said not only that, but we all going to convert to Christianity. We'll do that if you give me the weapons to take out this next tribe, and you help us. You give us some men to actually fight the next African tribe that was a rival. So the Portuguese did it. Sure did. They got their land. Africans held a part of their deal. They gave them the land. They converted to Christianity. Next thing you know, the Portuguese went crazy. They started taking over everything, including the land, Alfonso the First land. I'm sorry, Alfonso the Second's land. And then he wanted to write these letters. The letters are out there. The letters are in museums. You better go read them. Oh, what are you doing? I thought we had these deals. The Portuguese king say, you black, we don't have to do none of that shit you talking about. When he asked them to stop, and when he asked them to be fair and all this stuff, he got played. Now, what have happened if he didn't overthrow those queen mothers when they was telling him not to do that? It was women telling him not to do that shit. Even his own wife was begging him, don't fucking do them deals with these people. Like, we don't know them. And he didn't listen. And then at the end, he said that was his worst mistake he ever made, because his whole land got taken and all his people got stolen into slavery. All of them. His whole village. So this is deep shit. cannot deny the truth. You can't run away from it. And we have to understand these lessons of what happens when you go against your self-interest and you don't practice the law of self-preservation. What the fuck happens when you don't practice that law? Bad things. Okay? So no one is telling you this stuff so you could be like soaking in the past, like, oh, we was thinking and feeling bad or guilty necessarily. It is what it is. We need to know. Because again, black women had a role in this too. So everybody going to understand what went wrong, and we're never going to do it again, right? Because from what I see, you're going to have to make a decision. Because many of you have been doing the same shit, and you can no longer do it anymore. We can no longer ever let this situation happen again going forward. So let the Queen Mothership be back in store. It's time for your ascension, for you to rise in your power, for you to help yourself first and foremost. You're always going to put yourself first. And by you putting yourself first and checking these men going to come in line, and they're going to awaken too, because they come out of your ass. It's not the other way around. These men come through your mitochondria DNA. They have your mitochondria DNA in their bellies, in their genetics. They come out of your ass, out of your coochie. So they can't get here without you. And they trying to convince you of making it seem like you're not important. So when I say how powerful the woman is, the powerful the black woman is, you better wake up and stop. You better wake up. And I know it sounds like, oh, you just being so mean. Don't take everything I'm saying personal, or as a reflection on your personal being, because I'm going to speak the truth regardless. And we need to open our minds and expand our consciousness to accept it and not feel like you're being attacked, because you're really not. Trust me. Attack is the last thing on my mind. Judgment is the last thing on my mind as well. All I know is that we need to get back to understanding our power as women and as men. We need to empower our children. Because the biggest thing is, honestly, and I really don't care how this sounds, I really don't care about what happens to anybody that's over the age of 15, as far as the black people. It's the children that I'm really more concerned with, and helping parents reach their children through this information. It's not so much anybody, the baby boomer generation and generation X. You think them niggas ain't do nothing for us? Look how they haven't done anything. So why would I'm not going to be trying to give the information I have to that generation. No, clearly not. Because they haven't done anything with their whole entire generation, and we're in a situation now trying to figure out because of that. And it is what it is. It sounds fucked up. It is what it is. So honestly, it's the children that I'm really concerned with, at under 15, because they can still be indoctrinated, they can still be saved, they can still get knowledge of self and turn things around. And honestly, 25 and under, it still have just a tiny bit of window. I still have just like just a little bit of hope. I have lots of hope, but not in that sense that what you think. I'm not trying to save anybody. I'm not trying to save, I'm trying to save myself. And, I just want to get the information out there for the young children. So, like, say if you have young boy, young girl, and you hear this information I'm saying, and you have a child that's under 15, I'm not saying show them what I'm talking about, because I do a lot of cursing, so I do apologize about that. But just so that you can know the things that you could be telling your kids, young son, young girl, about their history, and as far as the Queen Mothership, not necessarily the actual what led to our situation, but the aspect of our structures, our societies, our culture. And I'll be doing a lot more videos about that kind of information. I'll be talking about actual curriculums for literally kids, young adults under 15, because that is the group that I would like to help inspire, because again, the kids are the future, as cheesy as that sounds. So once again, another tangent, I apologize. We're gonna do part 2, the overthrow of the Queen Mothership, and we're going to keep it moving, and then we're going to go all the way up to 2020. Okay, so until next time, we'll get it popping, and stay safe during this time. Love yourself during this time. Embrace hope, embrace your beauty. Just be in a ball of love right now, okay, with yourself. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.